There it goes. That works better.
Okay, we're live.
All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to a working meeting of the City Council. Probably most people know the drill, but just in case you don't, this is a meeting for the council, so you're just going to basically be hearing us talking about some city business, some city issues. There's no public comment, no good and welfare, nothing like that. It's just basically you're listening to us talk about some city, what's going on in the city. So why don't we get going? I guess we got a bunch of people on, so let's see. Where should we start? You want to start with
Mr. Bendo, this is Liz. Can we just introduce everyone real quickly that's on the call, or just a quick go around? If you could just introduce everyone.
Okay. Everybody want to introduce themselves? Why don't we start with you, Liz?
Elizabeth Trefton, City Council.
Okay, I'm going to go in the order of the pictures on my screen at least. So John Bendo, City Council. Donna?
Oh, Donna Gaydon, City Manager.
Mike?
Mike Delori, City Council member.
All right, Karen?
Karen McInnes, City Council member.
All right, Denise Ford?
Denise Ford, County Legislator.
Okay, Matt?
Matt Tannenbaum, Motorola.
Okay, Monique?
Monique Powell, Director of Community Development.
All right, Ron?
Ron Walsh, incoming Commissioner of Police.
All right, Rich?
Rich Barrios, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
All right, Mr. Frazier?
Dave Fraser, City Clerk.
And Joe is muted. I don't know if he's paying attention. There he goes.
Joe Fabrizio, City Engineer, Public Works.
Okay, John?
John McNally, Executive Assistant to the City Manager.
And Tommy? And Tommy might be eating dinner. So Tommy Ken is from our beach maintenance department, runs our beach maintenance department, but don't let that name fool you. Beach maintenance does most of the maintenance around the city, building maintenance, things like that.
And he's Deputy Commissioner of Public Works.
And he's Deputy Commissioner of Public Works.
Thank you.
Okay. So where should we start? Should we start with Youth and Family Services? All right. I think that's you, Monique.
That is me. Okay, so first up is that we can start with the MLK building.
All right.
We reviewed the safety reopening plan. It went through thorough review. And they received the okay to resume programming.
Okay, so this is the safety review plan from MLK Inc., correct?
Sorry, MLK Inc. Sorry.
Okay, so it's there every safety. Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right, Liz, I think were you going to ask something?
Or Karen? I think Karen.
Oh, it was Karen? Sorry, thought it was Liz.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so that's that. We'll move on to the next, to our Sandbox program, which is our preschool program. We have extended the program. We're very excited to offer to families that are in need. So it's a full Monday through Friday program. It mirrors the pre-K program, which is a half a day. So we swap in and out between the AM and the PM of pre-K programs. Some new things with the Sandbox is that we are using a new software. So we're going completely remote and digital with our software, which allows parents to pay online. So it increases transparency. They can enroll online. It's called ProCare. I've used it previously. They can receive their balance, tax information, attendance is taken, the COVID questionnaire is done online. Basically, that increases transparency about systems and policies. It puts parents on the know. They get great pictures and activity reports. The calendars is online. So we are very excited to launch that. We received it today. I met with the staff to onboard that. And I, stay tuned to all the greatness that it can happen, that will happen because of So it eliminates the moving around, the old brick and mortar daycare to now being more a competitive advantage is that we have that software. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay. Now, just a quick question. Sandbox, that's the one that we're extending the hours now longer than it was previously, so the kids have more time?
Yes, we did a need assessment with the families, in particular West End, and their needs is that they needed a full week program. We were currently operating 3 days a week. So we looked at our market of families that take advantage of it, and they needed the Monday through Friday and also an extended day. So we're now officially opening it. We just had to make sure we had the people, places, and things to make it happen.
I want to make everybody aware, though, the staff was working all of the hours. So we did increase hours. They just weren't having kids. So they're getting the same amount of hours that they were getting before. We just extended the time for the children.
Okay. So it's not costing us any more, but we increased the amount of service we're providing.
Yes, which will then bring in some type of program and revenue for us. And
Sure.
I think that would be great.
That's
Now,
a
that's
win-win.
also for our AM and PM program that we have at West End, in addition to the Sandbox and at Lido. So again, that, that brings the program more into the forefront of the families of what their needs are, to be able to pay online, to be able to see what their child is doing, to receive messages. So we are hoping to increase our enrollment now that everything else is in place.
Monique, for someone like, I don't have children, so I don't know the ages of the programs that you're talking about. So when you say program, can you just sort of try to say exactly what program you're talking about by identifying it by name, but then explaining like the community, who it serves, so that someone like me who isn't familiar with your programs can understand and appreciate all the work that you're doing?
Great. Good point. So what we did was the West End Community Center, which is adjacent to the West End Elementary School. We have now made that like an early childhood learning center. So early childhood would be from birth, from families to expecting families, all the way up to 4 years old. In that building, we have a before school program for the elementary school kids of West End only. Due to COVID, it's only where we're co-located at. And we have a PM program for the elementary kids, which starts after school. So in that building, we have the AM and PM, which we only service West End. And then we have the Sandbox. Now, the Sandbox is the preschool, not pre-K, but preschool program. And it operates from 9:15 till about 12:30. And that's that's previously how what it operated with. 3 days a week. So it was like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have now extended it from Monday through Friday from 9 to 12:30. And then after that, from 12:30 to 2:30. And don't quote me on the exact times, but it's the afternoon program. And that is for the preschools. So, so that's the program in that building, sorry. Then we have our AM, before and after school program, which is in the elementary school of Lido. And we do the before care and after care there.
Wait, elementary, when you say Lido, do you mean Lindell or?
Lido.
Lido, okay.
Yeah. Yes. So what has happened because of COVID, we used to operate in more schools. However, due to COVID, we are now only operating out of Lido, which is not our facility.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that. Now, the thing about this software is great. Parents can enroll online. They can register for the programs. We're also using the same software for our Magnolia second floor when we have youth programs. So if you want to register for any youth programs, whether it's early childhood, whether it's in school age or older, youth, adult, high schools, it's the same registration process. It's a link. They go online, they pick the program. It automatically takes information from families as far as authorized pickup, any medical allergies, and every staff member receives this information. So it's an easy enrollment registration. If there's any fees associated with it, they pay right then and there online.
Now, if we didn't have COVID restrictions, about how many kids could we accommodate?
I mean, our capacity is about 60. I get excited over that. But it's based on our license. But, to the moon, to the moon.
Okay. All right. So we got room to grow.
Oh, we do. We do.
Okay. Good. Good.
So that was the Sandbox. So I can segue into the youth program. So we have opened up Magnolia second floor. That's where I'm at now. You probably see my lucky friend, the giraffe here. That's how you know I'm in. We started our first program tonight. We did a cupcake decorating program. Of course, we followed our COVID guidelines. We had kids here that were decorating cupcakes, and they made Valentine packages for anyone of their choice. So today was the first day from 4 to 6. We plan to have more youth activities. We have a Black History scavenger hunt where we are placing QR codes around our city parks. So during next week, when kids are out of school, with permission, of course, they can travel around to the local city parks in their community. They can look for these QR codes, take their mobile device or their phone, scan it, and learn more about African American inventors. And even some very important information about inventors who even invented the cell phone, the Super Soaker. So it's something that is engaging for the kids. Now, the good thing is that they could take it in, they could memorize it, but we don't want them. We want them to be able to comprehend and understand. And we're going to put a live quiz on our website where they get to answer the quiz. If they get more than 6 right, we'll pull their names out and we will raffle them off for a prize. The next youth program that we have, we're going to do one-on-one personalized tutoring. So families of only 10 right now, just because we like to have accurate data to make sure that it works, we'll have 10 families, the first 10 families sign up for one-on-one personalized training. We believe there's loss of learning due to COVID, and there's only a certain amount that families can provide. I have 2 kids, and I still can't count to 100 at times. So it's what we can help families with. So this tutoring can either be their choice at home or here at the Magnolia 2nd floor. The tutors have decided to do it remotely, and as they wish, we will provide the services here and have the child come here with the permission slip and take the tutoring, or they could do it at home. The next program is the stock market game. So we are releasing the kids stock market game where they get to sign up and join the app and compete and virtually invest $100,000 of their money and learn how to do the stock market game. So you will see that flyer coming up as well.
Can I play?
No.
Yeah, I'm doing the high school version, so you can do the high school one with me. So you will get the link. It will be on our website. So we're getting things moving up here. We like to do it slowly just so we can get good data to make sure that we are doing it right, and that is getting to everyone in the community because this is access to all. And for those who can't make it here, thanks to transportation, there's a bus from Riverside that takes from Riverside all the way to Magnolia. So we are creating our programs around that time so that everyone have access to it. We're constantly updating the website so you don't have to wait for a phone call or anyone to tell you. We are trying to get the practice of looking on the website, updating it. We communicate with the school districts. We have street teams in certain neighborhoods to help us in areas to help us to get the word out, because we believe word of mouth with kids means that they're engaged. In addition to that, we're having a Black Kid Magic for Black History where they get to come in and they're going to get to do some Black History crafts, listen to some music, learn about the culture. Most of these events, like I said, are 4 to 6 p.m. It is open to all. In addition to that, we're having yoga and dance movement and Zumba. So that will be on the website as well. And again, we limited to 10 kids now because of COVID. We just want to make sure everything is well. Yeah. Yes, Liz.
Monique, can you just spell out the website for people?
Yes, it's on Long Beach. Where I have it on my flyer. It is longbeachny.gov/YFS. That's Youth and Family Services. So we are reactivating that department, letting people know that we are providing all services for youth and family, sorry. And the next thing that we do is seniors. So we are moving forward with providing senior programs. We are making this department here a one-stop shop. So if you are youth and families and you need services, information, our phone number is there. We have someone there that answers it. Dominique provides you with resources, whether it's within the community or the city. And the first thing we've been getting calls is for seniors because of the vaccine, but we were able to answer it. We were able to take in a survey as well for them and provide these services. So that is the Youth and Family Services Department in a nutshell. Keep eye out on our youth council that's coming up. So we are going to start recruiting for a youth council. And I'm not taking up no more of your time.
Can you just explain that youth council real quick?
Yeah, it's similar to the advisory board, the senior advisory council, to the planning council. It's what better way is to find out the needs, to find out what's going on. You know, we cannot alone say we know what's needed. We cannot alone say, the policies and the thoughts. So it's gathering youth from all over the city of Long Beach. They're going to meet. I'll be their liaison. Of course, we probably have feed kids whenever we can, but to get an idea of what their needs are, have them maybe go through programming and see that we're offering the best. And that's it.
Okay, great. Anybody got any questions for Monique?
I just have one, sorry. Am I the only one? Karen, do you have a question?
No, I just want to know if I can steal her for the police department. That's all.
On my draft.
No. No.
Monique, under community development on the website, it has virtual homework help academic support.
What that is that I've decided to also make this website a one-stop shop from all community programs. So the MLK is having a academic help. So I broadcast every program for youth and families on it, even if it's not sponsored or hosted by the city. And that's what you see there. We do it's a calendar of events that's happening. And if you click the link, it'll tell you who's doing it, I believe.
Right. It's just, and you need a Zoom link and everything like that. And it says virtual homework help academic support program for elementary and middle school. I think that's great
Well, you know what? If we are saying all access to all, right? If someone comes in and say they need help, we need to be able to direct them to who's doing what, whether the city is sponsoring it, whether it's a community-based organization, because at the end of the day, their needs need to be met. So now on our website, if there's any programs that's going on, whether it's youth, families, or seniors that's under the Youth and Family Services, it will be broadcasted and they know where to go to find it. So I have my bi-weekly meetings with the nonprofits and community organizations. And I created an email that they can send me upcoming events that they have that we should be able to market and let the community know. And that's that collaboration and partnership that we're broadcasting and saying access to all. So the MLK is actually doing that, and they have a financial literacy, I believe we put up there. I also put up the soup kitchen because it's, as transparent as you could be, it's on the website. No one has to call in and ask questions. So,
Monique, this is Karen. I would just ask on the software program that you have, the control. Am I correct to assume the controller's access is the only one that has access to that?
Yes, there's a separate billing and finance access that they already have. And in order for me to do the software, I had to receive their blessings, the information, the bank account, because we accept payments. It's a processing. And yes, they're very excited to see
that. That's fabulous. And when you say that's it, that is so much work. I'm exhausted already. So thank you.
A lot of work.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. I see Mr. McNally's on. What's going on in your world there, John? Well, he might be off.
Sorry, was that for me? I just had like a computer lag.
Yeah.
No, my computer was lagging there. It stalled out for a second. Apologies. So good evening, all. Couple of quick updates. First and foremost was on the pop-up vaccination site that happened at Magnolia Center today, which was wildly successful in my estimation, but also I know there's a lot of confusion about. So just wanted to give you all an update and see if you had any questions. So this pop-up site is part of the governor's initiative to ensure really equity in the vaccination distribution program that's going on throughout the state. And that equity component is to make sure that there is a specific, very targeted approach to making sure that low income and minority communities are given access to the vaccine. These are groups that were disproportionately affected by COVID-19, super high in terms of those that had hospitalization rates and infection rates, but also at the same time have a history of not getting vaccines, whether it's through a distrust of the science, whether it's not having computer accessibility to be able to get onto it, whether it's not having transportation to be able to get to it. These are communities that historically and in present day are underrepresented in the ability to get the vaccine. So this is a governor initiative They reached out to us late last week. I believe it was last Friday, came and toured a couple of sites, decided that Magnolia would be the site. And the city, if we can get shots in arms for any of our residents, we're all about it. We've been advocating for it for, since the vaccines were approved by the FDA. And what happened over, the past 4 or 5 days was we partnered with a number of our community groups. The Long Beach Housing Authority went door to door and knocked on the door within the senior housing authorities. So this was for 65 and over, because that's the general eligibility. They went door to door to the housing authority. Senator Kaminsky's office was key. Religious leaders were key, and nonprofits were key to really reach out to these groups that the governor has made eligible to receive these shots today. And at the end of the day, over a 5-hour period, there was shots in the arms of 386 seniors in our community. And that accounts for more than half of the senior residents in our senior housing authority buildings. That is huge. This is a population that has been essentially shut in since last March, afraid to leave their homes, afraid to leave their apartment buildings. And through the governor's efforts to target this population, again, this is not a group that, generally speaking, can get online and have the patience, or have the know-how, or even, they don't have the ability to get online and get this information. They don't have cars. So our Department of Transportation did a yeoman's job today, shuttling people from all of the different housing authority buildings in the city to the Magnolia Center. So today was, I know there's been a lot of confusion out there. There was some not exactly what I would deem excellent reporting by News 12, who just said, hey, there's a pop-up site from 10 to 3, have at it. That was not the governor's intent here. And, that's not the purpose of these things. This is a very intentional outreach to populations that are disproportionately affected by COVID-19 and who traditionally, historically, and in present day data show that do not have access to the vaccine. So, we're very cognizant that there is a very limited supply, and the 10 million people who are currently eligible, when the state is only getting 300,000 to 400,000, doses a week, you're looking at a 6-month lag in getting shots in everybody's arm who wants them or who's eligible. But this is specifically targeted to a group that would never have been eligible or would have had a very hard time getting those shots themselves. So we understand frustration of those who, were not able to get in today, who were not part of the demographic that this is intended for. But if the governor is telling us that they're going to get 386 shots in the arms of people of Long Beach who desperately need them, we're going to facilitate that effort. And that's what we did. So, thanks to our beach maintenance department who built a ramp in Magnolia, thanks to all of our recreational staff who shifted their days today from what they thought was going to be a rec day to a help facilitate a pop-up vaccination site today, thanks to all of the people that answer phones in City Hall for people that were, had confusion or wanted to try and get on a list. And just know that we continue to be in close contact with the governor's office, with Senator Kaminsky, with Assemblywoman Miller, and everyone that we can to continue to advocate for, a more permanent site in Long Beach and more of a supply, generally speaking, to get to Long Beach. But today was, for what it was intended to be by the governor, today was wildly successful, I think, in our estimation. So any other questions on that before I give one other brief hit?
Yeah, will they be returning to administer this? I'm assuming this is either the Moderna or Pfizer. Will they be returning to administer second doses?
Yes, so they will be when the folks were vaccinated today, they were given an appointment for another 3 weeks out for the same time slots that they were allocated for today. So we'll be doing this all over again to make sure that everybody got a first shot, is able to get a second shot in 3 weeks and be complete with it, and 96% resistant to the virus.
Okay, that's not bad. Almost 400 people.
John, this is Mike Delory. Anything learned today that we could implement when the second shot is scheduled?
I mean, yeah. So the group I neglected to thank first is Stony Brook Hospital was the hospital and the medical workers that administered it. But I think our staff got a really quick training on how to make this work. You know, Stony Brook were the experts in this. They managed to, through the rec facility and through, you know, the Magnolia Center, it was a one-way traffic only flow, how to set up different stations, you know, what this process is. So I think we have a pretty good understanding. We're obviously not going to be the people putting shots in people's arms, but we know what it takes. We know what spatially it looks like. We know what the process looks like. So I think that augurs well for us, you know, in being able to interface with either the county or the state for doing this moving forward. But, you know, as I'm sure you've been paying attention, Mike, you know, Walgreens is starting to get it. CVS is going to start to get it. I know we've gotten some calls from local physicians that are starting to get their deliveries. So, and if Johnson & Johnson's could get their vaccine could get approved as early as next week, which would, you know, increase the available supply of vaccines significantly. We're hoping that it doesn't get to the point where you need to do a community vaccination center and that the vaccine can meet people where they are. But we're obviously, you know, advocating for our residents, you know, to get every resource we can down here. And we've offered up some municipal buildings and have, you know, spoken with some of our other nonprofit and religious partners to talk about the potential for their buildings to be activated for something like this as well. So, you know, we're making every opportunity available that we can.
Thanks, John.
You bet.
Before you go on, I want to say thank you to Tommy Canner and his team. One of the things that we had to do to make sure that we were ready for any of the handicap accessible, they built a ramp in a very short amount of time to make sure that the one-way traffic, there was a ramp on both sides in the theater area. So I want to say thank you very much, Tommy. The ramp looks good. I know the guys were saying aesthetically it was not beautiful, but it served the purpose. So make sure you tell them I said thank you, and when I see them, I'll tell them thank you.
Yeah, and a ramp doesn't do it. I mean, this was a big job. So if somebody just thinks this is a 2-foot long ramp, not the case. This was a big project for these guys that put it together in just a couple of days, and really made this whole thing possible. So Tom, Shawnee, all you guys, thank you.
All right. You got anything else, John? Or
And the other thing, which I think will serve as something of a segue of, we have something, especially during the times of COVID, we have a little bit of a conflicting use in the City Hall where I think most people know the second floor of City Hall to be in use by our court system. And they typically have very tight protocols in our court system. With COVID, you can ramp that up exponentially. So we have traditionally, there's one room on the second floor that is used for the den of the volunteer firefighters that operate out of the City Hall. And there's just been, with the COVID restrictions that have been put in place by the state governing the court system, it's just become essentially untenable for the volunteers to effectively use that as their den, their crash pad when they're, you know, around ready to respond to emergency calls and fire. So we've been barking up all sorts of trees and trying to figure out all sorts of solutions for how we can alleviate that conflict. And thankfully, we have a legislator in Denise Ford and a county executive in Laura Curran, and a legislature that is amenable to the idea of the solution to eliminating that conflict is being able to establish, you know, a suitable trailer for, which will actually be a larger space than they currently have, and probably a more comfortable space than the volunteers currently have in the back parking lot of City Hall. As all of you are well aware, the city is in a very difficult financial situation right now. And Legislator Ford has let it be known that there's a really good degree of comfort that the county executive and the legislature under Denise Ford's leadership will be able to purchase a trailer for us for use by our volunteer firefighters as a den that, you know, takes a not insignificant chunk of money. This needed to happen. This was not a choice, and really gives us a solution that we did not have in-house. So thank you, Legislator Ford, for that. Thank you, County Executive Kern, and thank you to the entire legislature for making this happen. It's very much appreciated.
That is really good news, and I'm sure the firefighters are going to appreciate it. So that's great. Anybody got any questions for him on this? Or all right, John, you got anything else? Or is that it? Or
I do believe that is it for me this evening, unless anyone's got anything else.
All right.
I would go to Tommy to talk about the benches because Ron Walsh's report is going to be a little longer.
Okay. So,
all
all
right,
right,
guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, I'm live. Thank you for the great introduction there, President Bendo, and you owe me a Stromboli because my mouth is watering since you said so. All right, and just to for those who don't know, I'm Tommy Canner. Donna has moved me to the appropriate title of Director of Operations. It's a better suited title, I think we all think. So I'll just give you a quick update on the benches. As you know, the benches, they keep breaking. People are, you know, they're working out on them. They're using them. They're doing box jumps on them. If you don't know what that is, it's when you leap from a standing position onto a stationary object. And the UV rays from the sun, it's bleaching out the benches, and they're pretty much past their prime. I did get an estimate. You're not going to want to hear this. If we were to get the parts we need to fix every bench again, it would be $111,960. We have an idea on how to keep the ends from breaking because there are 3 legs on the benches, and the parts that overhang the ends, it's probably about, I'd say, a foot to 14 inches. We were thinking if we added a 4th leg to the benches, there wouldn't be such an overhang. So no matter what anybody does, if they jump on it, it's not going to break as easily. To do the pieces that we need, a broken end, the 4th leg, you're talking $300,960. It's a lot of money. There are 960 benches. There are 300 people on the waiting list. That waiting list can be from yesterday to 5 years ago. So we definitely need to do something, obviously. I was talking with Greg Scott and Donna about, you know, billing the people who own the bench. We have to definitely do something here because we're just going to start to get complaints again that the benches are broken, which they are. But the city can't sustain to keep doing this. We just spent, I believe it was about $35,000, not even 4 months ago. We replaced every bench that was broken, and here we are again with $111,000 in parts. So I'm open to anything that you guys want to do, but we definitely have to make a move quickly because we can't keep doing this.
One of the ideas was that we take some of the people on the list, contact them, and ask them if would they like to have the bench in one of our parks? Because 3 additional 300 benches on the boardwalk is a lot of benches, or other areas in the city. You want to talk about that, Tommy?
Yes, definitely. We would, like Donna said, we have Veterans Park. There's approximately 40 benches there that were purchased by the city when the park was built. Those benches need to be taken out. They're rusty, they're broken. So if we were to go down that list in priority order and go from the person who's been on the list the longest and say, hey, we're going to put your bench in the park, one, we wouldn't have to pay for the bench. We would be able to replace the benches in the park. It's a nicer bench, it's a better bench, and we would be able to, you know, have new benches in the park, and it wouldn't cost us a dime. There are a couple, you know, the other parks that we have, we could do the same thing. I think the best thing we should do is figure out exactly how many benches we can put on the boardwalk, which they'll all be on the north side now. If we, let's just call it 100 benches, we put them on the boardwalk, we put the rest of them in the park, and then we figure out where we can put the rest of the 300 to clear that list, because we all know that that list has been skipped. So if we can't shut the list down because people are going to say, hey, I've been on the list 5 years and there's a bench that was put in a month ago. So to satisfy that, like Donna said, we need to do other areas. One of the areas we were talking about is on Bay Drive from Magnolia down to Washington Boulevard. If we put benches along that walking path, that's something we could do. We could do the parks. I don't think there's really any more spots on the beach or the boardwalk, but if we put our heads together, we could figure out how to eat up that 300 list of benches.
I have a question. Maybe Mr. Berrios can answer this. When people purchase a bench, is it for forever? And it's my bench and the city is now responsible to fix it? Or is there a clause that says after 3 years, you have to repay a certain amount of money?
I can look into it for you, Liz. This program is usually
fair for one person, or I mean, I know families that have benches, and this is not to disparage the memory of anyone. I'm just looking at how much it costs in the long run if you have a bench for 20 years. Does it turn over?
Liz, as far as I know, in the past history, is the bench was purchased, whatever the price of the bench is. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The price of the bench, whatever it is, there was $1,000 one-time installment fee on top of it, so it usually comes to anywhere about $3,000. But then the city, I don't know what the legalities are. I don't know what it says, but we've been fixing the benches, and the way that the residents think is that we are responsible. The city is responsible to continuously fix that bench, and that's what we've been doing historically.
Yeah, again, I think that it's a legal issue and a contract issue moving forward, perhaps, that
yes,
it just makes sense to, if you're any type of memorials thing, you have to pay for upkeep. Not if it's intentionally broken, but if it's 5 years old, do you still want to have this in your family? Then you need to re-up your.
Tommy, what's the estimated annual maintenance cost for the benches that currently exist on the boardwalk?
If we were to charge, I think we should charge $500 a year.
I'm not even saying. I'm sorry, Tommy. I'm not even saying I wasn't clear. So I'm not even saying what we would charge people. I'm saying what are the current costs to the city for the maintenance of the benches?
An estimated cost per year, we're putting, I would say a good estimate is $75,000 a year we're putting into these benches.
Is that with time and materials, or just materials?
That's just material. If we were to put the time into it, I'm going to say we're over 100,000. I would say a fair estimate is $110,000, and that's every year.
Exactly.
And every year that goes by, it's more, because as the benches become older, and it's a composite material, which is, it's like a plastic and sawdust is the best way I could describe it. And from being in the sun, it deteriorates. It's I don't know if you're familiar with the material Trex. They were using it for decking. I know Mr. Bendo is. As the sun beats on it, the UV rays, it breaks it down, so it becomes more brittle. And with the salt water, with the salt air exposure, and with the sun, they become more brittle. And there's a lot of benches up there that are up there, quite some time. So they start to deteriorate and they break a lot easier. So as each year goes by, we're spending more and more money and more time on these benches.
That's why I remember we had this discussion last year, and that's why
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we were looking into an innovative solution where we have maybe a higher one-time cost with a new type of bench, so that in the out years we don't have at least $110,000 in maintenance, because it's just like you're kind of repairing a broken sort of a bench that doesn't have a longer life. So why are we just going to fix something that's going to keep breaking down instead of getting or using a different type of product more suitable to see for being on a boardwalk?
I agree with you. To use a different product, we're talking a lot of money. We looked into actually using the Ipe wood, which is the same as the boardwalk, the decking, but the amount of money we would spend and the labor is astronomical. There are different materials. Anything that's metal, we know it's going to rust. It's going to look horrible. There are a lot of different composite materials. It's just the labor involved. It would be a huge undertaking, and it would be a huge dollar amount. I think the best way, the cheapest, fastest way, and it's not cheap, is for us to add the fourth leg to the bench. So it would be labor intense, but if we added that fourth leg and we didn't have that overhang, we shortened the span, so to speak. I think that is as expensive as it is, $150,000 in legs. That would probably put a lot of the breakage to bed, because it's like I said, if the bench becomes brittle from the sun beating on it, and if we have a less overhang, if we have, like, say, 4 inches past the leg, it's not as likely to break as if you have a foot hanging over. And that's 99% of the problems is those ends breaking.
So Tommy, if you actually shorten that overhang, how much longer would these benches last, you think?
I couldn't say for sure, but I think they'd last. I'm going to just go with a guesstimate. I'm going to say they're going to last twice as long as they are now, because that's 99% of it is the ends breaking off. So if you shorten that span, it's a lot harder to break it off.
Tommy, could you, with the current 3 legs, could you move the outer legs out closer to the end without adding that fourth one?
We could. We looked at that as well. We could do that. We could give that a shot. Then we wouldn't have to pay for anything. It would be just the labor. Right. Because if you move them out 6-8 inches, it might accomplish the same thing. I mean, I guess you'd have to figure. Hopefully, we wouldn't get bowing in the right.
space in between the legs. But
I just think. I'm sorry, Tommy. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Liz. You go ahead first. Ladies first.
Karen.
Hi. I would just be interested to see the different scenarios and what each scenario would end up costing over 5 years, and the one that is the least expensive would probably be the optimal solution.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Well, then we definitely need to look at it.
If we go with President Bendo's idea, the only thing we'd have to purchase is the hardware, and you're talking thousands. You're talking maybe, let's say, $6,000 in hardware, and it would just be the labor. So we could take maybe 10 benches in at a time, and we could move the legs out, refasten them, put them back on the boardwalk, and I could figure out how many we could do in a day. But I know my guys. I'm going to say that they could probably do like 20 in a day. Take them off the boardwalk, take them to the shop, move the legs apart, put the new hardware in, put them back in their same spot. I know we could do.
I think that what we need to do is what Karen suggested. We need to cost it out either way, whether we move the legs apart and what's the potential of it being bowing. Tommy, let's get together and look at all of the scenarios and cost it out, and then we can come back.
Yeah, and the one with just moving the legs out a little bit, that we could pick a few benches and do it as a test. since just as an experiment to see if it works.
Yeah,
That
we
would
could
be-
do a half a dozen each way and see what works best. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm
obviously,
saying.
Yeah, the 3 legs is obviously a lot cheaper, but we can do whatever you guys want.
Yeah. Hey, just to circle back for a second to that list. I mean, are we talking about potentially adding benches for the sole purpose of clearing the list and nothing else? I mean, have we actually do we need benches, or is it the purpose just to clear the list?
Yeah, we absolutely don't need any more benches. There's way too
Okay.
many up there already, and that would be the goal, to clear the list, just so we don't get any blowback with people.
I don't know. I think this needs to be discussed because having more benches up there is there will be no place for fairs. There's going to be no place to put concert things.
Well, it's not only that, but people lock their bicycles up to the railings.
And if you're going to start putting it on the north side, you're decreasing the walkability and strollers, and the bike lane becomes bigger and more people are in the bike lane. Again, this is something I think that we should put a pin in and continue to discuss.
Agreed.
Another idea, guys, just listening out loud. I know the purpose of the benches to some degree, right, is to commemorate someone's memory.
Right.
That memory need not be embodied on a bench.
Well,
there are other places on the boardwalk we can put these things.
Well, why can't we have
such a big cost? So much money.
Right, I've seen it. So why can't we have memorial boardwalk planks or other things like that? I mean, there's
one of the things that we talked about, John, I talked about with Donna, is we used to do the commemorative bricks in front of City Hall.
Yep.
So we have that. There's other areas that we could just discuss in putting those bricks, maybe along the bayfront on that walking path from Magnolia to Washington.
Yeah.
And then one of my guys came up with the idea that we could have somebody do the same plaque that they would put on a bench, but we would put it, maybe 50 plaques on one big board, like the artwork I think the junior high school did at Edwards Boulevard. There's little pieces of the old boardwalk, like a little 6-inch piece, and they painted them and put sayings on them, and they put them all together on one big area, and then we mounted it to the boardwalk. That's something else that we could look at.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to solve any of this tonight. I mean, there's obviously other things we could do. So why don't you guys put your heads together and maybe come up with some ideas, because we're not going to solve this right now.
I would love to hear from the Arts Council, who is definitely more creative than me, for some innovative solutions. I think that Tommy is looking to I believe, Tommy, that you want to get it done, and that's your drive, and that's what's one of the things that's great about you. But the thing is, what's really the right solution? Maybe we need other voices to say what's the best and most compassionate and solution.
You could have the Hollywood Walk, where you have somebody has their name in a sidewalk or something. You could have, but I think the longer range issue that I have is the current benches that are on the boardwalk will break down, have broken down, will need to be replaced. The current people that have those benches really should pay an annual maintenance fee. And if it's 50 or 115, and I don't know, Rich, legally, if we could establish a policy going forward, but from my understanding, people come down, and whether they're out of state, out of town, or local, that like to go to the bench and they sit down. They'll put flowers from time to time, and it's a little quiet time. I don't think a cost to maintain that good feeling or that product that they place there, I don't think it's asking too much if you maintain it. That's my personal opinion. At $111,000, divided by 960 benches, you're talking about $120 to $125 a year. So that's the range that we're looking at on an annual cost. But I like all of the comments here as well. The 3 legs, stretch them out. I like the other ideas. So this is a it's a multifaceted type of, it's not just fixing the bench. There's location issues. There's a lot of things that I just want to give you my thought on it, at least on the current benches and the maintenance. Thanks.
And I agree with you, Karen, is we need to get more people involved, because I look at it from just the get it done part. And, the more people involved, if we pay attention to this one thing here, well, we could solve it. And one of the things that I discussed with Donna, and, of course, this would have to be something that would be through Rich's office, is if we put something on the city website that there's 8 different parts on the bench, not including the legs, which they don't really need to be replaced very often. And we just put that if this part's broken, it's X amount of dollars, including the labor, and that's it. If the bench breaks, they know exactly what it's going to cost, and then we can bill them for that. But how we do that's out of my league.
Right. So why don't you guys get together, figure that out with I guess with Rich and whoever else, and you can come back to us with some ideas on how to move forward.
Okay, will do.
All right. Appreciate it, Tommy.
Okay, thank you. Guys.
All right. Let's see. I guess why don't we talk about? I guess we got a bunch of stuff regarding the police radios and the OEM and stuff like that. So and the dispatches and services, and so why don't we go down that path?
Was that an intro?
I guess if you're going to handle it, our incoming police commissioner, Ronald Walsh.
There you go. How are you? How's everybody tonight?
All right.
All right. So first thing that we were discussing actually with Donna was the overall conceptualization of how we're doing dispatch and dispatch services in the police department and fire department, and the learning experiences that we had with our snowstorm and with how OEM is handled here. So we started to evaluate and look at, and Donna's asked me to look at the communication services that we provide here in the city. And we have sort of a bifurcated system right now. It's actually more than that if you think about it. We have the police department that does police dispatching. We have the fire department that does fire and EMS dispatching. And then we have all of the other radio capabilities that we have in the city for public works, water department, sanitation, and all of the different disparate, I guess you would just say different departments within the city. So the concept here that we're looking at now is to merge the police and fire dispatch units into one unit in one co-located room, so that you have police and fire, and making it much more efficient because you have the coordination and cooperation that'll take place with emergencies happening in the same room. So if there's a fire department emergency and you need police department resources to block off a particular street or something, instead of making phone calls or getting on the one radio to talk to one dispatcher to pick up a phone to call the police dispatcher, who gets on their radio then to dispatch the call, the fire dispatcher goes, "We need a car to block off Beach and Virginia," and okay, and then she gets on the radio, and he or she gets on the radio and does that. So the coordination of services and just being close together is much more efficient. Not even withstanding that, you also have at times where it gets very busy in storms and things like that, or with large scale emergencies, one police dispatcher or one fire dispatcher. The idea here would be also to cross-train our dispatchers to be able to handle police or fire or EMS dispatching and emergencies, so that if a large-scale police or a large-scale fire emergency was taking place, they can work together in dispatching the resources necessary to handle the emergency and coordinate that. The other thing you have now is you have about 20 to 22 part-time dispatchers that work in the fire service with no full-timers. And in the police department, you have 4 full-time dispatchers with 1 or 2. I think right now we have 1 part-time dispatcher. So if you can put them all into one pool that is cross-trained together, you now eliminate the need to have a police officer coming in to do dispatching for the police department when someone calls out sick or someone goes on vacation or any number of other things happen where people can't come to work. And you have the ability to train both sides, if you will, as one communications unit. So that's the concept. Locating that above OEM, you have a conference room, I guess you would say, on the 6.5th floor of the City Hall building that really isn't used right now. So if it was purpose-built as a dispatch and communications center, you have the space to do that, and it can coordinate with OEM. You reduce the footprint also in City Hall because you take the dispatcher from the fire department and the dispatcher from the police department, putting them in one room, building a new dispatch center, while you free up the space in the police department, which is overcrowded down in that desk area, and eliminating the need for that 3rd floor room in City Hall that the fire department currently has. You also reduce cost of equipment. So I brought in Matt Tannenbaum. Matt and I became very familiar with each other in Nassau County. We just planned out several different radio systems, and Matt's very familiar. You know, in Nassau County, I was in charge of the Communications Bureau for the police department, and you know, there's 37 different dispatch locations, all coordinated into one, right next to fire communications. So all they have to do is open up the door, and FireCom is there, and there's seamless communications there. So, Matt, if you want to talk a little bit about some of the concepts here that I was talking about, just to add a little bit of a technical knowledge to it.
Yeah. Thanks. So, you know, one of the things that that we discussed on Wednesday, I came out and just looked over what the infrastructure of the city is right now, and really the purpose of that was just to gather data, look at what's already installed, and then kind of review, you know, best practices and collaborate with the city to make some recommendations of, you know, if there is a possibility of consolidating, what's the best way to do that, and then, you know, capitalize on some other infrastructure that the county has actually built for cities and villages and towns, which the city doesn't currently use. So right now, this is really just exploring certain possibilities, and then you know, coming back and collaborating with everybody to kind of see what's the best practice here, what can be done to streamline some of the PD operations with OEM, and then the other entities within the city. So Matt brought up great segue, Matt, because part of the design of the 3 radio projects that I led up when I was in the PD was we have this old 800 radio system that we just rebuilt with 6 sites. So I'll give you a little idea what that means. We can drive around anywhere in Nassau County with this particular system. It was designed for jail operations and for Department of Public Works countywide, right? And it's not just Public Works who uses it. A lot of the villages and even Long Beach used it for a while. So you can drive around with a mobile in your car and talk in 97% of Nassau County. With a mobile, and with a portable radio, so long as you're not inside a building or anything, relatively reliable. It's not a police or a public safety network, but I'll get to how that all ties in a minute. So about 2 years ago, when I was trying to find out, we were trying to do an audit of all of the radios that we had out in the field that the county had issued. We lost track of that because County DPW ran the radio systems for a little while, and then it turned over to county OEM. So too many cooks, too many chefs ruined the stew.
Nobody had any idea where the radios were, right? So we did an audit, and we sent out emails to all the different agencies, all 19 villages in the 2 cities, and we got answers back from almost everybody except for Long Beach. They didn't answer. So Long Beach never answered whether or not they needed replacement radios for the county issue radios that they had. They were free. We were taking them back and giving new equipment to the city or the villages so that these systems will work and you have interoperability too. Well, I knew the system. Matt and I worked on building it. It was the first real push that I did when I got there. And I called Denise Ford and I told her that we're going to call and ask to get some of these radios, even though the city didn't respond at the time. There's a great need here. And we're in terrible financial condition, and Denise knows all too well. So Legislator Ford helped us just get the permissions that we need to get new equipment. So I'm working with Tommy Canner and Greg Scott right now to map out all of the vehicles that we can put these radios in so that you now have storm and emergency coordination for DPW. See, it's not for Public Works, but it's not just Public Works. Everything here is done uniquely. So you have beach maintenance, you have sanitation, you have Public Works, you have rec vehicles, you have outside water vehicles, all that coordinate to do snow removal and salt, who have no way of communicating because all the radios are broken in the cars. So we're triaging right now and prioritizing what vehicles definitely need it. Oh, by the way, the buses too need it. So the city did put in a couple of years back. What's the system they put in, Matt? The Motos, the radio system that they recently put in a couple of years ago. I can't think of the name.
There's a bunch of technologies that the city's using. One of them being the Moto Turbo system.
That's it. The Moto Turbo.
And then there's a couple of point systems as well. So it's we're not looking to replace every single unit and come in and say, oh, everything you have has to be replaced. Now this is really to augment that and to streamline up.
So what we're able to do now is you have about a third of the radios in all the vehicles that work. So we're going to replace with new equipment from the county, those radios, and add probably we're going to add a total of about 60 or 70 radios into our vehicles. Take the existing radios that still work, put them in vehicles that don't work. And on the Moto Zoom, we're going to patch the 2 systems together so they still can all talk to one another and have a much more efficient and productive way of approaching storms and emergencies, whether it's man-made or natural disasters, and be able to coordinate ourselves. We're also going to put...
Ron, let's go back, because Denise is on the phone. Let's go back to where we talked about the OEM and moving it, and that Denise is...
Oh, yeah, huge. Yeah. I don't want to steal your thunder. You can say it if you want.
No, we made a call. We figured that it's going to cost us about $300,000 to put OEM, all of the dispatch services, to the 6th floor. And I called Legislator Ford and said I need some help. And she is giving us $275,000 of the $300,000 we need.
Wow.
So I want to say to you on this call again and again and again, thank you. And you will get our documentation in my letter next week.
Yes, we're looking forward to it. And I'm very happy to do this. We're all Long Beaches. And, for me, as chairwoman of public safety, safety is of the utmost importance. And by having a really top-notch communication system, I think will provide protection for not only our residents, but as well for the officers. So I'm more than happy, and I'm glad that I have the funding that I'm able to do this. So, Ron has a lot of work to do, and he has to go through the process of dealing with an IMA and getting it through the system, and he'll probably want to scream by the end of it, but you'll have to be patient, but I look forward to this. I really and truly do. And I thank you, Donna, and this city council and our new soon to be police commissioner, you know, for your forward thinking and making every effort to start making such needed improvements in our city that will benefit everybody. So it's my place, the small part that I'm playing. You guys are doing all the hard work, and thank you.
I want to say thank you too to you, Legislator Ford, because without the money, it's not possible. So thank you very, very, very much for giving us the ability to at least even approach this as a cure to some of the ills of the city. It's really great stuff. Thank you. So just to finish this up a little bit, I just want to touch base on something I didn't get a chance to mention on the last working session about the OEM activation we had of OEM on January 31st through the February 2nd with that snowstorm. You know, the snow emergency was declared, and with that, it turns into you have snow emergency routes. Well, if nobody gets off your snow emergency route, you can't plow your street. You don't have egress across the city, and it becomes a problem. So the police department was very responsive. You should know that over those couple of days, we issued 272 summons on the snow emergency route, and we towed a total of 19 cars, which is something that hasn't been done for a long time in the city, really going out there and trying to enforce these things, trying to get the behavior modification so that when people hear the police department and the fire department going up and down the streets to declare a snow emergency, we need you to move your cars, that we're not simply ignored, because it's life or death if something bad happens when those routes are not open. So I want to commend them for that, for the work that they did there, being out in terrible, terrible conditions. And, you know, they were pushing cars, they were digging cars out. I mean, Donna Gaten and I, what did we do on that Monday night? We got a call from a rather upset citizen who her and her elderly husband had just shoveled out their car and their driveway, and the plow came by and buried them back in. So Donna and I went out with shovels, and we were digging out the cars, and then the DPW, Public Works trucks came up, and we got them back, and we had a happy customer that night. But it's just things like that to be able to coordinate, to be able to be out there and having the police officers and specials and all the different enforcement and the way the city kind of came together. OEM opened up. It was I'd say a little shaky in the beginning, City Manager Gaten, but it got worked out before the end of that day, and it was a very, very good test run for our OEM to see how we were able to handle the storms. And you know, Tommy and Greg both played big roles in getting the city in that. So all in all, that's sort of my report today. I'm opening up for any questions any of you guys might have to get a better understanding of the direction we're looking at.
The one thing I want to say is that we went to the lady's house. She called, I answered the phone. I never identified myself as a city manager. And so we went to her house and we dug out her driveway. We started shoveling until Tommy's guys got there. She didn't know really who we were till she called the police department and to say thank you. And they told her who we were. And so I want to say to Ron, thank you, because what we did and what we continue to do, this is not the first time we've been out there shoveling snow. It's about us helping the residents in the community, and our job titles does not stop us from getting out, helping people that are in need.
Yeah, well, it's just great PR and leadership. It's what we should be doing. I appreciated the opportunity to do it. Any questions on any of the radio stuff or anything?
Yeah, when Matt inventoried the equipment, how many of them still had vacuum tubes?
You're not far off, John. There's quite a bit of aged equipment up in that up in the communications room. That so you know, the beauty about what we're doing with the radios is the county. It's on the county's radio system. So once we get all of our vehicles over to that system, we no longer have to maintain that. All we have to maintain is the equipment to communicate, the radios and the car and the portables. The county is providing the villages and the cities with radio systems. The small system that they're using, Matt and I, the big system that Denise and the county legislature just approved, which will be up and operational in about 3 years actually, and then 5 years to get everybody rolled on, is going to take this 6-site system. Remember I said it limited on portables, and it becomes a 24-site system, which will be one of the most robust public safety radio systems in the country. And it has the bandwidth for the fire department, the police department, all of our city operations for the whole county. So we built a system that all the villages and cities will have to do is have end user equipment, and everything else is on the city side, on the county side, because they were doing it anyway. All it was just creating greater bandwidth, and technology has permitted that at a much, much cheaper expense than it would have been capable of 20 years ago.
Looks like Liz has a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Denise Ford. Thank you, incoming police commissioner. Thank you, Matt. Will our residents see an increase? For example, when we have to call 911, it goes to 911, and then it goes somewhere else, and then it goes somewhere else, and then we get to the fire department or the police department. Okay. So will they notice a difference in not necessarily time response to the incident, but will they notice a difference in how long they're waiting on?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, what we're looking at is not changing the manner in which emergency calls come in at all. All it is the end side. So the way the city works, as you understand it, is if you're within the city limits and you dial 911 on a cell phone, right? 911 should show up here in the city. But if you're any place else and you hit a tower that's not within the city limits, you go to county 911 and then they forward you. If you dial a landline in the city, then it goes right to 911 within the city. Okay? Firecom, which is not us, if you call for the fire department and you get county 911, they send you to Firecom, and then Firecom sends you to the fire department. So, and that's another thing we're just looking at this point, is making sure that we have the best possible service to the city so that we get the quickest response of our emergency responders. So it's kind of all being evaluated at this time. But as of right now, it looks like what we just want to do is bring together the current services that we have for the city and make that the most efficient and productive it can be while lowering expenses.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Ron and Matt, is this this is Mike Delory. The UHF or the bandwidth systems that are supposed to be updated, upgraded, where I don't know where we are, the city is today. I don't know where the county is today, but it sounds like the goal is to be on one type of delivery mechanism where the band, whether it's UHF, I don't remember, but there is a goal to get to the highest level of the type of communication. And then delivery, as far as like towers or repeaters or things like that, is that part of an infrastructure improvement that's needed as well?
So I'll take the first whack at it, Matt, and then you could add color, if you will. You know what I mean? So the way what you're talking about is our radios here in the police department and for the county have a tendency of getting wiped out, which is what's called tropospheric ducting, from around May to around October. It can happen at any time, but that's generally when you have like this thing called an atmospheric inversion, where the radio waves start bouncing off the atmosphere. And it comes from Norfolk, Virginia television stations that basically wipe out our ability to communicate. Long Beach has a rudimentary backup system that goes on VHF, right, Matt? Yeah, so, which is very high frequency, and that's not subject to the ducting. The new system that the county built doesn't experience, and is building out bigger, doesn't experience that phenomenon because those frequencies aren't used by television stations. So to answer your question, yes, we are going to the place where there'll be less interference, much more reliable, and much more redundant.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome. You want to add anything to that, Matt?
No, just I started reviewing just the city's FCC licenses, and so pretty much you're operating on almost every spectrum that's been used over the past 20 years, from 46 megahertz low band up to VHF up to UHF, pretty much all over the FCC radio waves. The system that we're looking at would migrate a lot of that over to the county backbone, which is a really, really robust public safety grade system.
Thank you, Matt.
Anything else from anybody? You're on mute, John.
And I'm assuming these, heaven forbid, we have another Sandy type thing, having tie-in with county communications, I assume would also be helpful, right? Because this is now with local, obviously wouldn't be just a local network anymore.
Right. So the police department already uses the county's public safety network.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah, and so they would be rolling up anyway. So when that system gets turned on for the police departments, the county will be providing new mobile and new portable radios for the city. And I mean, look, the radios that we're installing here now, just for these cars out in the field for DPW and public, I say DPW, I apologize, for Public Works and all the other vehicles, the buses and stuff, probably would cost us $250,000 just for that. So we're getting those for free, probably within the next several months. All these cars will be taken care of for that. And then the building out of the OEM center, I mean, we've offset $275,000, of course, from Legislator Ford's grant to us. So we're making huge strides to really start to upgrade, but there's a lot more to be done. I don't want you to think that this is oh, great, we took care of the radios. If you really wanted to do this top to bottom, left to right, put everybody on the one backbone, you're looking at $1 million, so we don't have that.
Right.
Not including the radios. I'm just talking about the system. You should know that a public safety police officer radio retail cost is, for the one mobile that they hold in their hand, that's $13,500 a radio. For the radios in the car, it's what, $6,000 now, Matt, for the dual band?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Right. So that stuff is being given to the city when the police go over it. This equipment is being given to the city for our public works type of work and coordination of effort for snow and emergency response for other than public safety. So once we just get this part done, the functionality, Tommy Canner and Greg Scott were in my office saying, this is fantastic. Just the ability to talk to each other and coordinate and do it from one location too, because when we have an emergency, they'll be able to sit in the OEM office and talk on their radio to their trucks out in the field, and being able to direct them as the calls come in from the public and from the officers who are saying, hey, this road is blocked. And Tommy says, you know what? Hey, Billy, get over to whatever street and clear that out. It's blocked right now. That much faster, which you don't have right now. It's cell phones is what they're using while they're driving and everything else. So it's a much, much greater level of efficiency.
Boy, Denise Ford, 2 home runs tonight.
Yeah. I'd call this a grand slam, John.
Yeah. Hat trick, whatever. Yeah.
This is Karen. I'm sorry I had some IT connection issues, but this unglamorous type of work is the foundation to professionalize the city and to move us forward. And it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of cooperation and communication across all the departments. And it's really appreciated by the council. I hope I speak for all of us that this is a tremendous amount of work to move us forward. And we recognize that. We know it every day, and we are your enthusiasm is inspiring and catching. So I'm excited to see all the departments working together to help each other, to keep us safer, and to make the employees enjoy, working together more. So thank you.
Great. One last piece, all of the installs for all this stuff, they're coming here and doing it in our garage. So we don't have to take our trucks out of here to get it done. So the county's really being fantastic about it.
It's awesome.
That's all I got, Donna. Everybody, John.
Finally, the intergovernmental cooperation.
Absolutely.
Nice to see. Very nice to see. So, all right. Let's see.
That's all I am.
All right. So we're going on about an hour and a half. So that's, unless somebody's got something else, maybe this is a good point to call it a night. But yeah, I guess before we go, I guess I got to thank Denise again. I don't know if she's still listening, but yeah, that was.
I am, John.
Yeah, big thank you. Big thank you. But yeah, good. Well, we're moving in the right direction, so making progress. So that's all good. So Liz has got her hand up. So yes, Miss Treston.
Just to piggyback on cooperation, a reminder that on Saturday at 6 p.m., Denise Ford, Missy Miller, myself, and Denise, please help me with the doctor's name, from the town of Hempstead.
Dr. Dave Newberg.
We will be doing an info on COVID and vaccines on Facebook, and you could find it on the city's Facebook page, as well as Missy Miller's assembly page. So I appreciate that. And on a final note, if we're closing out, Happy Chinese New Year.
Do you know what year it is?
I do, because I have to thank one of our residents, Mr. Clancy, who wrote us at the very beginning that he would like to see it on this year's calendar. It is the year of the ox.
The ox. Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything? All right. Seeing nothing, we don't have to get Mike to make a motion to close the meeting. So, all right. Thanks everyone for joining. I guess we'll see you Tuesday night at the council meeting. So
Valentine's Day.
And oh yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Good night, everybody.
I want a Stromboli.
Yeah, there you go.
Stromboli for Valentine's Day.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
I'll buy you one.
Good night.
Be safe.
I would just the one other thing I would say before we close out. So tomorrow is a city. Tomorrow is a city holiday, but sanitation will be taking place as normal. In case anyone was not aware of that, Monday is President's Day, and I believe the same is in effect. But check the city's website in case there's any doubts.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.